Good evening, guys. Thanks for joining us again. Tonight is our last night of our virtual fair event for the Tuscarawas County Anti-Drug Coalition. Please, if you are watching, drop me a line and say, hi, I'm watching. Feel free to text in, ask questions. Let's try to give away all my stuff that I have sitting here on the table, and I still have stuff that I didn't put out on the table. So the more people that text in and ask questions, the more prizes I can give away. Tonight, we're going to talk about tobacco and our tobacco committee. And we have one of our chairs with us, and
Hi,
Nicole
everyone.
Dorsey. Right?
Hi, I'm Nicole Dorsey. I'm with the Tuscarawas County Health Department, and I'm a co-chair for the Tobacco Subcommittee for the ADC.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Nicole, she does co-chair our tobacco committee, and she does such a great job. And she also has a tobacco survey that you guys are needing data on
I
also,
do.
right?
There is a tobacco survey out. We have it posted on our Facebook page at the Tuscarawas County Health Department's Facebook page. So if you go on there and complete that, we would greatly appreciate it. We work with our partners like the ADC, as well as the Ohio Department of Health, and we're really just trying to collect data on everyone's views around tobacco in the county and get some information on where to go with education and programming, things like that. So go on and complete that survey. We would greatly appreciate it, and you can enter in to win one of five $25 prizes, which will be drawn next week.
There you go. And remember, the ADC has also run an R survey. We have our marijuana survey that we do every year at the fair. This will be our third year of collecting our data, and our survey link is on our website. The website is adctusk.org. So if you want to fill out our marijuana survey, it's totally confidential. We don't ask for your name or anything. I just ask that you send me a quick message and say, hey, I just filled your survey out, and we'll make sure that we give you one of our prizes. We have t-shirts, lanyards, highlighters, sunglasses. I do have a gift card for Starbucks, a gift card for Roadhouse. So
Awesome.
join in and you can win all kinds of fun things from us and the health department.
Yeah.
So tonight I'm going to let Nicole explain a little bit what the tobacco committee does for the ADC and how we've partnered up.
So, with the ADC and the Tobacco Subcommittee, there's a group of us that meets usually once a month. We just recently, I'd say in the past, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months, have pulled in another group of people and kind of combined it together to focus around vaping, because, of course, vaping is a big issue right now. So, what we do is we get together, we try to figure out what kind of messaging needs to be taken out, how to tailor that to the specific populations that it's going to, as well as figure out what kind of programs we can implement to help with the problem of tobacco use. A lot of our talk has been around vaping because, of course, traditional tobacco use is declining. It has been for some time now, but there has been since 2017 a surge in youth tobacco use, especially centering vaping. So that's a lot of what we're doing right now. It's good work. We we are meeting on the third Monday of every month at 10 a.m. So we actually have a meeting next Monday. If you want to join us, just drop us a line. Is that what you say?
Yep.
um,
You
yeah,
can,
just
if you would like to join us, send a message. You can go on the ADC Facebook page or our website. Let us know that you want to join, and we can send the link out to you to
yeah,
join. Right now, because of COVID, there is no face-to-face meetings. It's all virtual.
yeah, everything's virtual, and I think that allows for some participants to come in that don't
Normally
necessarily
couldn't
have
get
the
there.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But where they're working, they can jump on, join us, add to the conversation, and it's been really helpful. We have people from every different sector. You come when you can, and when you can't, that's okay. You can always email any kind of response or idea, anything that you want to do like that. So, yeah, that's what we do.
And last year, as Nicole said, the vaping has really been on an uprise.
Yeah.
We're finding it in high schools, we're finding it in intermediate schools, and sadly, some of the elementary schools, they're even finding it. So tonight, what we had done is we brought some of our vaping um, devices. That's the word I'm looking for. We brought some vaping devices just in case you're not sure what a vape device looks like. They go by a bunch of different names. They go by mods. They go by vapes. They go by joules, pods. You might hear kids say, I'm chasing this cloud. And that is a form of their vaping. So tonight, what we have laying here, and I'm going to let Nicole, since she's closer to the camera, pick them up. And as she picks them up, I'll explain to you what they are.
Well, we're going to start over here first. We'll end with the disposable so we can talk about that a little bit.
This goes with that. And this. This that I have here in my hand comes in a lot of different flavors, different sizes, different bottles. This was just one of the bottles that I grabbed. It is your flavored tobacco juice that goes into an e-cigarette or a vape pen. What Nicole is holding is a refillable vape pen, and they're finding a lot of these. The other night we also talked about the liquefied marijuana, the THC, the dabs. This is some of the stuff that you will see. Your kid could be putting the tobacco juice in it, or they could be putting the dabs in it, either or, because it is refillable. The next one,
We'll go with this one now.
okay, this one here is the same way. It is a vape pen, and right, the clear part of it is where the juice would go, and the activator and everything is down in there that gets it hot. Now, I'm going to throw out a question. So, if you are watching and you want a chance for a free t-shirt, I'm not even going to spin the wheel, I'll give you a free t-shirt. Answer the question of, when someone vapes, what are they exhaling? Is the smoke water? Is the smoke aerosol? Is the smoke, what's the other name that the kids were calling it?
Vapor.
Just vape.
Water vapor.
Water
Yep.
vapor. Yep. So if you can answer that question for me, if you got it right or not, we'll give the right answer. Just tell me what you think that the smoke is every time that you exhale on a e-cigarette or a vape pen. So that's question number one. If you want a free t-shirt, let me know you're here and answer my question. Now, the next device that Nicole's holding up is actually called a joule. That is the name of the device. And you will, you will see this a lot in the high schools. And the reason for that is they are refillable, and you can get the little juice things at the cartridges. And this is the cartridge that goes into the joules. They come in 4 different flavors. Now, the thing is with an e-cigarette or a joule, you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, it's safer than smoking cigarettes, or I don't smoke as much. But just that little cartridge that's inside of that joule is equivalent to an entire pack of cigarettes. So imagine if, you know, your kid, you, whoever is smoking, and they go through 2 or 3 of those little cartridges a day, that's technically going through 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
That's a lot. And another thing to mention about all of these is the type of nicotine that's in here. It's a lot easier to inhale, so you don't have that quite as intense burning sensation that you would if you're smoking a traditional cigarette. So it's a lot easier for adults and kids to inhale more, which means they're inhaling more nicotine. And
It's a lot easier to become addicted.
yes, yeah.
The thing with, if you're smoking a traditional cigarette, a lot of it burns off. This doesn't happen with a joule. The minute you take a hit off of an e-cigarette or a joule, you're getting 100% of that nicotine right off the bat. And why these are so popular with the kids is this right here is the charging device. Now, if you look at this, and I'm going to just, for an example, I'll let Nicole hold them up. And one of them devices is the charger, and one of those devices is my adapter for my wireless mouse. If you look at the top of them, look how similar both of them look. If you're someone that has not been around the devices or the joules, you probably would not know the difference in the two. And the only difference in the two is the charging point. That is how kids charge their electronic cigarettes. This is why it is so accessible in the schools and how it's so easy for even teachers not to understand what it is. The kids hide them, they put them up their sleeve, and they can take a hit, blow the smoke down into their shirt. Very easy to hide in a school setting.
It is. And another thing with that, as far as being easy to hide, when they are exhaling, you don't have that bad smell like you get with a traditional cigarette. It might be minty, that might be what you're smelling, and that could just be gum. So you're thinking that it's nothing, and it really is. They're using a vaping device.
And
Give that back to you so you don't lose your mouse.
and the one thing that I did bring, this is not a shirt we're giving away, but this is one of my nice, neat little shirts. This is real big in the schools. I'll let you hold it up. There's a lot of shirts, backpacks, what's some of the other things that, hats that conceal the Joel device. This shirt right here actually conceals the Joel device. There you go. As you see, the Joel itself, which is the same as this red one, hooks right on the end of the string, and the other piece goes in your mouth. So it literally looks like a kid is sitting and they're chewing on the string of their hoodie or their shirt, when in all reality they're actually sitting there with the Joel on one side. And they hide right down in the front of the shirt. So you don't see the Joel pin. All you see is the kid with the other end in his mouth. These come in shirts, backpacks. I know there's hats. I got a comment. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see what my comment is. It's not opening. Here we go. Oh, Jody said hi. Hi, Jody. But these things here, it just makes it so much easier for kids to conceal. So if you notice that your kid has a new shirt but you didn't buy it and they won't let you wash it, that's them flags that Jody and I talked about all week long. You know, there's a reason. Find out why they're not letting you wash that shirt. Just do some snooping and see.
Yep, I agree.
Anything else?
I think that's good with that.
Okay.
Let's go on to. I don't even know if I know what this.
That is a filled cartridge for this.
Okay.
What Nicole just held up is the difference in the two cartridges is one you can fill up yourself, and the other one came pre-filled with juice in it.
So let's talk about this one next, because
Go
these
ahead.
are becoming quite popular. This one is actually called a Riptide Ripstick, but it's a disposable vaping device, and disposables are increasingly popular right now because there has been a flavor ban. It's federal, so it's affecting across the nation, but the problem with that is it's only for pods and cartridges that are pre-filled. So disposables are not impacted by that, so kids and adults can still buy
Ooh, watch, it's leaking.
disposable products.
And that is the disposable part of the cigarette or the e-cigarette.
And get whatever flavors they want from it, because that's not included in the flavor ban.
Now the thing with this one is when this first came out, you was actually, I think I paid 49 cents for the device itself, and then I bought whatever flavor I wanted for the top of it. And some of them that are totally disposable, you can't even switch the cartridges out. You throw
Yep.
the whole thing away. These are very, very popular in the gas stations. If you walk up to a counter at the gas station, you'll see a lot of the disposables sitting on the counter and the other stuff behind the counter.
Another thing I think that we should mention about these is when you have a cigarette, you probably get about 20 puffs out of it. Some of these devices can go up to 1,000 puffs. So they can have one single device and get 1,000 puffs out of it. And that's a lot of cigarettes. So it's a lot of nicotine, 100% nicotine. They're not burning it off like Diana said. So it's a lot easier for kids to become addicted.
Yep. There's another device that we don't have that we've noticed that is very popular in the school, and I call it a teardrop.
It's like a Soren. I don't know the right way to
I'm
say it.
not sure what the right pronouncement of, I've always called it the
Sourin.
teardrop.
Yep.
And that device, it does look like a teardrop. And the problem with it is it's equivalent to 2 packs of cigarettes. Where your Juuls and stuff is only equivalent to 1, the teardrop is equivalent to 2. So if your kid is walking around with something that looks like a big plastic teardrop, that is another sign, hey, let me see that. We need to talk, because they're actually inhaling 2 whole packs of cigarettes. And we don't have an answer yet. Jody, do you want to answer our question and get us started? I'll give you a t-shirt. Our question was, when you exhale on a e-cigarette, what are you exhaling? Go ahead.
Something that I want to mention, the ones that we showed you, like the Juul and the Ripstick and these other devices that we showed you, like Diana said, one of them looks exactly like a flash drive would look. If this is laying on a desk, you're not going to realize that that is, or you may not realize that that is actually a vaping device. But there's also some that look exactly like pens. There are some that are pens that you can write with. So if it's out, they could be using their vaping device as their writing tool, and you wouldn't even suspect it. So those are all things to watch for.
The Juuls is really, really popular in the schools. When Nicole and Kelly, and we had 2 other girls from our office and myself, as we talked the other night, we went around to every school in Tuscarawas County.
Yep.
We hit everyone, didn't we?
I think we missed Garraway. Did we get?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. We
we-
went to a lot of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
high school and
Middle school.
intermediate.
And yeah.
And high school and intermediate and junior high.
Yep.
So we went and we did a vaping presentation to all the schools, and it was really nice. At one of the schools, I had a girl come up to the counselor that was there, and she handed her devices over and said, wow, I did not understand what I was inhaling. So
Yeah.
it was, as a professional, I'm sure Nicole can vouch for this. There's times you second guess what you're doing. It's like,
Absolutely.
am I talking to a wall, or kids even listening to me? And that day was one of those days that when the counselor said, hey, your presentation made a difference for one kid, and that meant the world.
Yep, absolutely. And that's all it takes. You get one at a time, and then it snowballs. So I think you're doing fantastic.
So are you. So the answer to our question is, when you exhale, you are exhaling what, Nicole?
It's an aerosol, so it is filled with all kinds of toxic chemicals. It's not just water vapor. It's not harmless. And when Diana said earlier that a lot of kids or even adults think that vaping devices and vaping in general is safer than cigarettes, that may be true, but safer doesn't mean that it's safe. It doesn't have the tar in it that a traditional cigarette does, but it still has cancer-causing agents in it. It still, when you heat up those flavors, it still causes or creates chemicals that can cause cancer. So, and not just that, but can make you very, very sick. So, it's not safe. It's not just water. There are a lot of harmful chemicals in there.
Now, can you get secondhand smoke from vaping?
You can.
What else can you get?
Well, if you are the one that's vaping, one of the things that we talked about a lot when we were out in schools was popcorn lung. Popcorn lung is irreversible. It is very damaging to the lungs. Basically what it is when you're inhaling that, let's go back a little bit. So it was discovered by workers in a popcorn factory because the butter flavoring that we eat on popcorn, everybody loves. It's safe to eat. They discovered that when you heat that, it turns into something. So when you're inhaling it, it creates popcorn lung. That's why it's called popcorn lung, because they discovered it in a popcorn factory. But the importance of that is that when there are things out there that are safe to eat, safe to drink, it doesn't mean that they're safe to be heated up to the point that you can inhale them into your lungs. So what happens when you do that is you're inhaling this wet moisture, and that's getting into your lungs, and then your lungs are just a breeding ground for bacteria, and it causes a lot of damage. It could even cause death.
And that's one of the things, when we did our presentations in the school, we actually showed a real short video to the kids what when they inhaled what it did, and it showed the water setting at the bottom of the lungs from the e-cigarettes, and that's what's making everyone sick. It's too early. They just came out to really know what the long-term effects of vaping is. But they're seeing metal in the lungs. They're seeing the water, the moisture down in the lungs. What
There's
other
all it
things?
can cause really a lot of the same things that traditional cigarettes cause. So it can cause heart problems. It can cause high blood pressure, and we're seeing that in younger kids. So that's what's really alarming. We didn't have that before because we were having this decrease in tobacco usage among youth, and then we have this surge, and then we have a bunch of people getting sick. So it's causing these problems earlier on, probably because they are inhaling a lot more nicotine than they would have otherwise if it would have been a cigarette. I'm not telling
And
anybody.
it's flavor.
And it's flavor,
It's
yeah, so
flavor.
it tastes better. So, and it's easier. Like I said, there's not that burn. You don't. It's not so harsh. You don't have to adjust to it. You can just pick it up and start using it, and that's pretty scary.
And the one thing that we I really found interesting when I started getting all my training on the e-cigarettes and stuff is third hand smoke. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of third hand smoke, but third hand smoke actually comes from your e-cigarette. Like Nicole said, that when you exhale, you're exhaling aerosol. And think about aerosol hairspray. I always took a can of hairspray with me when we did our talk to the schools because visual always gets kids' attention. So if you take your can of hairspray or air freshener, anything that's in an aerosol can, and you spray it in your room, what do you see that falls? You see that moisture. Oh, I just lost our webpage. I can't tell if anyone's coming on. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll pick up where she
Go
left
ahead.
off. So, yeah, like she was saying, you see the cloud of smoke, even if you're smoking a traditional cigarette. You see that cloud of smoke and then it disappears, but it doesn't actually disappear. So all of those chemicals that were in that cloud, they settle onto whatever surfaces that are around. That's why if you go into a home where there's been people who have smoking inside, there might be like a yellow tint to the walls, curtains, furniture, things like that. That's all the toxins that have settled out of the cloud of smoke if they're smoking a traditional cigarette or the aerosol from a vaping device. So, those chemicals land on things. You most likely won't be able to see them. You could see the yellowing from a traditional cigarette, but from a vaping device, you wouldn't be able to see it. But as she was saying, if you take a can of hairspray and you spray it, especially if you spray it over a surface like a counter, and then you feel that counter, even after the hairspray dries, you can feel that. So you know it's not just disappearing, it's settling. And then the third hand smoke portion comes in when somebody touches that surface and maybe touches their mouth, or especially it's alarming for babies and young children because they crawl around, they put everything in their mouths, they touch everything, and then they put their hands in their mouths. So they're ingesting all those chemicals, um, because they've all settled down, or they've all settled into the surfaces, and then they're going through and touching everything and then putting their hands in their mouths.
And like I said, the e-cigarettes are so new. We don't know all of the side effects that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It could be years before we really know the side effects from the e-cigarettes. But the one thing that is good that came out of all of it and has changed, you want to talk about Tobacco 21? What's
Sure.
Tobacco 21 mean?
So Tobacco 21 that went into effect the end of last year, or towards the end of last year, and basically you have to be now 21 to buy tobacco products. So that's across the state. That's across the nation, right? That was a
I think
federal.
yes.
Yeah. So across the nation, you have to now be 21 to purchase products legally. Um, the only part missing about that is there was no enforcement with that. So we're working on that as part of our tobacco subcommittee. We are working on tobacco retailer licensing with certain municipalities. So if there's anyone out there that is interested in that kind of thing, you can, of course, join our fight for that. Help support us in that. But basically, there needs to be an enforcement piece. So we have the law now that says that you're not allowed to buy them until you're 21, And a lot of retailers are doing the right thing. They're carding. They're not selling when they're 20 until they're 21. Um, but of course, there are times that it does still happen. So the tobacco retailer licensing would come into play and really enforce that. So if a retailer is caught selling them, then they would get a fine. They would probably first get a warning and then a fine,
Yep.
and potentially could lose their license.
And the kids are going to get them. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
if they want them bad enough, they've got that older brother. But the nice thing about the Tobacco 21 is you don't have that 18-year-old that might be a senior in high school that at one time was able to go buy them
Yeah.
and get on the bus with other kids. Now you don't have to worry at all about any high school kid being able to walk into a gas station, buying cigarettes and giving them to a younger kid because you have to
Absolutely.
be 21. So that's one of the really biggest perks from the Tobacco 21 is it makes it just that much harder for our underage kids to get a hold of something.
Absolutely. It eliminates that older person from the social circle. So you don't have 21-year-olds going to high school. So it's very likely, though, that you have an 18 or a 19-year-old who was able to purchase those legally and then get it to kids who were underage. Um, so you don't have that anymore. That's nice.
And if anyone out there's listening that's from a school, if you want a vaping presentation, we're still doing them. The ADC and the health department, both of us together, and that way it's not a big strain on just one um, building. I think that's the word I
Yeah.
want. But we will go out, we will come out, we will do our vaping presentation. And it's really interesting because we start at the beginning of cigarettes and how the big tobacco company has geared everything towards our kids and why it's the e-cigarettes has really boomed like it has.
Yeah, and the marketing piece is really, I think it's really important here because these devices, even though these companies may say they're not marketing to youth, they're marketing to youth. Everything about them is geared directly towards youth, and that's why they're picking it up. Um, they are
Grandma and
very,
grandpa's not out there smoking tutti frutti.
yeah.
I, I'm sorry. There might be just that one person out there somewhere, but tutti frutti is something that kids like. That's a flavor for kids. It's not a grandpa and grandpa
I would
flavor.
agree. Yeah, I would agree.
So Kelly is on. Kelly said
Oh,
hi.
hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly. You should be here with us. Kelly is our other co-chair of the tobacco committee. So
Yes,
she said hi, and she works with Nicole at the health department.
and she's amazing.
And we have 2 minutes, so if anyone else just wants to say hi, please say hi, and I will give you a shirt. I can't even give shirts away. No one?
So
You have
while we're
anything else?
waiting,
Go
though,
ahead.
yeah, while we're waiting, I was in a training yesterday actually, and we were talking about vaping, and they threw out some really jarring statistics, and I think it wouldn't be bad to talk about them for a second.
Go ahead.
So in high school, they found that approximately 19% of high school kids are vaping or have vaped in the past 30 days. That's huge. That's about 1 in 5 kids. So it's not just affecting one kind of, like, just the athletes or the
The
different clubs.
non-athletes
Like,
or
it's across the board. Anyone is really fair game for the big tobacco companies. So it's not just centered around a certain group of kids. It is really, it could be anyone. So make sure you're watching your kids. Make sure you know what they're doing. Make sure you know if you see something that you haven't seen before, like a pen that they're always using, the same pen, check it out. Investigate it a little further. And another thing that came from that yesterday is that the people of that 19% that they identified is about the average that you have in high school that are vaping. 65% of those also vape marijuana.
and we talked about that
Yeah,
with the marijuana committee, and I brought the dab pen in.
yeah,
And again, for those of you that wasn't on with the marijuana committee, the dab pen literally looks like a red pen. And what dabs is, for those of you that might not know, it is the liquefied THC that's extracted from the marijuana bud.
yes.
And that's not the marijuana bud might have, what, 13, 14% THC, and your dabs can have up to 80, 90% THC.
Yeah, so it's a big
So,
deal. Definitely
yes.
something to watch for. They aren't just for one thing. It can go across different kinds of substances, and you really
And
need
like
to
we
be
said,
careful.
kids are smart. They know how to hide things. This the jacket or the sweater is one thing. But we are out of time. Nicole, I want to thank you for coming
Thank
and
you.
helping me. And I do want to remind people, again, we do have resources. You see our resources set in here. If you go on the adctus.org website, each one of our committees are color coded. Each one of our committees has the parent resources that you can download. We have slang terms. So if you want to hear what some of the terms are for vaping and you're not sure because your kid's talking and you don't understand, get on our webpage and look at some of our slang words.
Absolutely. It's always a lot easier to go and talk to your kids if you know the words that they're saying.
So that's it. I'm glad everyone joined us. And to the 4-H kids, do you have anything to say to the 4-H kids before we call it quits for the night?
Congratulations. I know your fair week's coming to an end. I've been watching videos and pictures, and you guys are doing fantastic. So congratulations. And I know it's been different, but you guys rock.
And everybody get on. They started their online auctions. So please get on and auction, join the auction, I
Yeah.
guess I should say, and buy an animal from the kids.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thanks for joining, guys.
Thank